Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Megacolony standard deck profile for post the Raging Tactics. Wanted to start off the Raging Tactics deck profiles by going with the first deck that I'm building from the set. I'll be focusing on the Tachikazes and Spike Brother decks after the rest of my friends finish those decks, because they are working on those decks as their main decks. I decided to stick with the one for this set to focus on, that being Megacolony, since I already had this deck to begin with. It's a really fun deck. The whole point now of the deck is to focus on the true Demonic Rifle Rogue Gunning Colio as the main grade 3 that gains additional drive checks based on dropping the cards from your opponent's deck, and if it is a grade 3, gaining the additional effects, along with all the other different support we have for Megacolony. For those of you that don't know, in Standard, they don't really focus on the Paralyze effect they had for stopping units from restanding, and just focusing more on the Protect markers and all the additional pressure we have with their own rear guards. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, for the grade 3s, I want to run 4 True Demonic Rifle Rogue Gunning Colio. I have the Machining Stags in here for now, just waiting on the last two to come in. But with this one being our main grade 3, on Vanguard when placed, this unit gets plus 5,000 and drive plus 1 until end of turn. Then put the top card of your opponent's deck into the drop zone, and if it is a grade 3 or greater, this unit gets plus 10,000 and drive plus 1 until end of turn. And then you can also, once per turn, Soul Blast 1 grade 3, put the top card of your opponent's deck into the drop zone, and your opponent cannot call the same grade as that card from his or her hand until end of turn. It's just really good pressure overall, and the fact that you gain an additional drive when placed, and also potentially if they drop a grade 3 from the top of their deck, giving this card the quadruple drive is insane pressure alone when this card attacks. And also just having that guarantee, if you consistently ride Gunning Colio and you have the grade 3s to Soul Blast for its once per turn effect, limiting your opponent if they drop a trigger, meaning they can't use their Sentinels if they're using the draw Sentinels, or even just their grade 0s, with all that power you can get, and then the potential to hit a lot of criticals as well, makes this card a very scary grade 3 to go up against as well using this deck, or when you're facing against this deck. I also want to run 3 of the new Unrivaled Blade Rogue Cyclomatooth. With this one, on Vanguard or rear, when it attacks a Vanguard, you can Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. Then put the top card of your opponent's deck into the drop zone, and if it is a grade 1 or greater, this unit gets an extra critical until end of turn. So the fact that this is a Vanguard or rear guard ability definitely does help with that pressure, giving you the plus 10, which it needs to go up against a lot of different decks that can easily, resist just the 12k alone attack, like a force deck, and also that critical. You have just a good chance to either drop a trigger that they could potentially have used, or, like I said, a grade 1 or greater. That additional critical definitely does help, and your chances are very good for that happening. And when rode upon, your opponent chooses a card from his or her hand, discards it, and one of your Vanguards gets plus 5,000 until the end of that turn for each of that card's grade. So it's like a mini break ride for Standard format. So you can ride Gunning Colio on top of Cyclomatooth, gaining that plus 5 additionally for your Vanguard as well. So you can at least hit your opponent's Vanguard depending on the type of deck you're going up against as well by using this card, but being able to rely on Cyclomatooth on rearguard as well is why I really do love this card in the deck for that consistent pressure as well. And then for the backup grade 3, just with all our pressure we have with our Vanguard, I really love an additional pressure along with Cyclomatooth. Usually if I ride Cyclomatooth, I at least want some other options for the rearguard. That's why I like the 3 Death Warden Antlion for the rearguard plays. On Vanguard or rear, when it attacks, Soul Blast 1, grade 3, and discard 2 cards from your hand. Until the end of that battle, this unit gets plus 10,000 and an extra critical, and your opponent cannot call Sentinels from hand to guard. So it doesn't have the top of the deck reveal a restriction for the card, but still giving you that plus 10 extra critical for just Soul Blasting a grade 3, which you'll have plenty of options for in this deck, since we're also running 11 grade 3s in total. Since it's also just consistent with all the different rides we do, you have the Protect markers, which you can get for Imaginary Gift Protect 1, to add Sentinels to your hand, which you can use for the grade 3s to discard as cost for that. But it all comes down to just the play you want to do, and you aren't really, limited to that. But having that pressure with all your different grade 3s definitely does come in handy, and the fact that they all have the Imaginary Gift Protect markers is an added bonus as well. And that is it for the grade 3s. We'll now move on to the grade 2s. For my grade 2s, I run 4 Machining Mantis. When placed, Counterblast 1, look at 6 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 card from among them, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. So we run 11 grade 3s in this deck. So altogether, this card is highly consistent, just being able to hit those numbers for whatever card you're looking for in the deck, and obviously just being able to grab the particular one I need. I don't really like to ride Antlion first because it can't be used as well as Cyclomatooth, or usually the one I want to go for, Gunning Colio. So being able to have this search option, most of the time when I start off with my opening hand, I have a grade 3 to use, but then being able to use Machining Mantis to search for another one, so then I can go for my rear guard pressure with the grade 3s as well, or just have consistent ride targets for them. Having it all set up definitely does come in handy as well. And also giving me the +6 means that I'll be able to hit my opponent's Vanguard for the attack if I rode into a grade 2 second, and they are already at a 10k base or 12k base for that card, being able to swing for 15 alone and not having to boost either. And also, I run 3 Super Attack Mutant Megacolony Lancer. On rearguard, when it attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets plus 2,000 until the end of that battle for each of your opponent's rest rearguards. Then put a rearguard into your soul, and your opponent cannot intercept until the end of that turn. It just has more pressure for this card, giving plus power if your opponent has 5 rest rearguards, giving it plus 10 in total. And the fact that they can't intercept means that you'll either have to have them use up their hand resources to block this attack, or just go for the pressure attack in total with this card, depending on the type of trigger you got off of your cards also. I like to run the 3, though. I think Machining Mantis is still the best ride target. That's why I'm running that at 4 max, because you always want to hit that on the ride target. Super Spear Attack Mutant Megacolony Lancer doesn't really have a Vanguard effect. It only works on rear guard for that pressure, so I decided to stick to those 3. But being able to put a rear guard into the soul means I can put a grade 3, like Cyclomatooth, on the rear into the soul, which if I don't ride into another one for Death Ward in Antlion, I can always just call it to rear and then use the skill with the grade 3 I put into soul using Megacolony Lancer, which definitely does help for that consistency as well. And I also run, to finish off the grade 2s, the 4 Hiding Killer Leaf. On Vanguard or rear, when it attacks a Vanguard, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets plus 10,000 until end of the battle. Put the top card of your opponent's deck into the drop zone. If it's a grade 1 or greater, you draw a card. So there's a really good chance that you'll draw off of this card for that consistency. If you wanted to drop the grade 3 count down to 10, try out a 4th Hiding Killer Tail. I would drop one of the Death Ward and Antlions down to 2 for the 10 count. If you just wanted a more consistent grade 2 lineup, I like it as it is at 10 grade 3s for the count, just because we have plenty of ride options. Hiding Killer Leaf or Machining Mantis both give us either a draw power effect with this card, or even just the grade 3 search, so both do come in handy. And you do have the soul to use, since most of the time I'm just soul blasting a grade 3 for some of the other cards I use in the deck. And I also, now moving on to the grade 1s, run 4 Machining Hornet. Just like Mantis, Hornet has remained so consistent for this deck just with the searches. When it attacks or the attack that it boosted hits a Vanguard, look at the 6 cards on the top of your deck, reveal up to a grade 3 from among them, put into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you put it into your hand and this unit's on rear, put into your soul. So you have a first turn attack that can consistently search for a grade 3, and then if you go into Mantis, you have another grade 3 search. You can set up your hand for a lot of different grade 3s depending on, the ride targets you have, which running 4 Hornet definitely does come in handy for that consistency, because most of my best games are when I ride Hornet, get the search, and then go for Mantis, get the same search as well. And it's the original Megacolony support that just remains so good for the deck, having that search, since grade 3s are still a main focus for this deck as well. And I also run 2 Flowery Tear. With this one, if your opponent's card was put from the deck into the drop zone this turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 on rear, which the majority of your cards in this deck do that already. So being able to set it up and give this card that power boost means it can attack on its own for an attack, or just provide a good boost for one of your grade 2 or 3s as well. On the rear, hitting for some high numbers, including cards like Megacolony Lancer or your Death Ward and Antlion, or even Cyclomatooth, depending on what you want for that play as well. And I also run 2 Small Captain Butterfly Officer. With this one, when placed, rest this unit, choose up to one of your other rear guards. It gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. If you chose at the end of that turn, put that unit into your soul and then countercharge 1. So just for the plus 10, you get the countercharge, but then you can reuse for a lot of other cards you run in the deck. So very, very useful. Also, building up your soul for other cards is another big bonus as well. I only like to run the 2 though. I find it consistent just with Flowery Tier and that, and then having Hornet for the ride target definitely does help. But for the last grade 1, I'm running, or potentially want to run, 4 Brawny Jerk. I have 1 additional Flower Tier, and then the 2 other Butterfly Officer in here as replacement until I get the last 3 I need of this. Like I said, I have the order in, just waiting on them. On rear when placed, Soul Blast 1, this unit gets +6 until end of turn. Put the top card of your opponent's deck into the drop zone. If it's a grade 1 or greater, you Soul Charge 1. And when it boosts a unit that attacked a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, discard a card from your hand. Your opponent chooses a card from his or her hand and discards it. So just that pressure for discarding a card and making your opponent discard ones can either take away from a potential Sentinel they can use to guard, you name it. As long as you have the cards to gain from your hand, which you can easily do with the Protect markers, you can really dwindle down your opponent's hand using Brawny Jerk as well, and getting some additional power as well with this one, just for the Soul Blast, and then also making up for it since you Soul Charge if you reveal grade 1 or greater for your opponent's cards. And that is it for the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s. For your starter, sticking with the machining worker ant, starters all do the same ability for when wrote upon, draw a card. And then for the trigger units, I decided to stick with the 8 criticals, so 4 Sharpnail Scorpio and 4 Shelter Beetle. Just the immense pressure you can do with Gutting Colio and its potential quadruple drive means you can hit for some easy critical triggers and then give that pressure if your opponent blocks the Vanguard attack to your rear guards to use. And for the Sentinel, I run the 4 Paralyzed Madonna, just the standard draw trigger for the deck, and also the Perfect Guard, and also the 4 Medical Battler Ramphill for the heal trigger. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It might work on a machining deck as well. I know we received some machining support, so it might be a budget version of that deck, which I'd like to give a shot as well coming up, so I might work on that next. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.